I'm Colton Sutley with my co-host Tim Friedhaber, and you're listening to the Caution Free Podcast. Today we have the legendary photographer Rick Rare of SprintCarNews.com. Uh, Rick, just to get started, just kind of tell us how you got into racing.
Um, Pretty much been into it all my life. I was actually born down in Maryland, and my parents took me to a racetrack called Potomac Speedway, which actually still races down there, but it was just late models. And they're originally from here, Northwest PA, Franklin. And when we moved back up here a few years later, my dad opened up a Pennzoil station and he sponsored a bunch of race cars. He painted race cars. He had a push truck. So I pretty much grew up at Tri City Speedway. And we went to Mercer a lot and Sportsman Speedway and tracks around here. But I've been going all my life pretty much. And then once I got my driver's license in 1991, then I started traveling and going out to Central PA and Ohio and everywhere and anywhere. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
So, what made you get into photography?
Um, I actually at one point I was going to over 100 races a year, and I talk and they're like, well, if you write or become part of the press, you can get them for free. And I was like, well, that'd be pretty cool. So I actually got my first gig was used to be a paper called RPM Racing News, and the late Dave Kitty had that, and he uh, gave me a chance, and I started doing a weekly column in there, and that got some attention. So then I got actually got a job writing for the Titusville newspaper and the Meadville newspaper, and I did that for a few years. But right around that time, digital cameras came out, and I thought they were really cool because the technology and everything. Never seen anything like that back then. So I went and bought one, and then I had it for a couple of weeks. And I was like, hey, I could take this camera to the track, take pictures, and put them with my stories. So I just started taking pictures to go along with the stories I was writing, and again, just kind of got hooked on it. Now I can't imagine going to the races and not taking pictures. I definitely like taking pictures better than I do writing, but I still do a little writing, but I love taking pictures.
Yeah, every once in a while I see Explore Venango, uh, your column on there.
Yeah, I do a column on there at least every other week, if not weekly, depending on what's going on and how much it's rained, and try to give exposure to all the Western PA tracks and drivers around here because there's just the local newspapers of what's left of them. There's not much left. So this way, give the guys some exposure anyway. Try to help out any way I can.
So you went to Potomac. They were only late models. Well, I guess they probably ran other classes, but no sprint cars.
No, that's not sprint car country down there. It's late models and bang bangers and stock cars and all that fender stuff. But I was too young to know any better. I'm just like, races, whatever. But so when we got up here to Tri City and I saw sprint cars, I fell in love with sprint cars. But growing up, I did like everything, but sprint cars have always been my favorite by far.
Now,
So if sprint cars didn't exist any longer, would you give up taking photos, or would you go take photos of late models?
I think I would move to Alaska and take pictures of polar bears and moose. It's probably what I would do, to be honest.
Oh,
uh, I thought you were going to say you were going to take pictures of bang bangers.
Or if I is Hustler still in business, if I could get a job there, that wouldn't be bad bad gig either.
I don't know. That sounds like something before my time.
It was a fine magazine back in the 80s.
Yeah, that was about 21 years before my time, so. Oh man. So when you were going to 100 different tracks or 100 races a year, were you going to 100 different tracks, or were you going to a lot of the same tracks?
Nah, I went to a lot of the same tracks. I think the most I did in one year was 36 or 37 tracks. But when I was doing that, it wasn't all sprint car races because, like, I remember weekends where like everything would be rained out. So we would just look for a race anywhere. Like I remember one time we ended up at Lorain County in Ohio, which was a pavement track. and it was just the only place running, anywhere. So I ended up there, or like Lakeville, Ohio. We went there for a regular show on a Friday night because nothing else was running. But gas was a lot cheaper back then too, so you could drive all over the place and not go broke. But yeah, I always try to go mix it up and go to as many tracks as I can, because if I'm going to the same place every week, same cars, same everything, kind of get burned out and get bored easy that way. So I always try to go for a variety of tracks and, different tracks, different cars, and different photos. Try to keep it interesting and not get burnt out before the season's over.
Did you keep track of all the different tracks you've been to throughout your career?
Yeah, I do. If you go on my website, sprintcarnews.com, I actually have a list on there of all the racetracks I've been to, all the sanctioning bodies I've seen. That might need updated. There might be a few missing there, but the tracks is updated. And what I've done on there, because I've had my website for the 27th or 28th year of this year. So when I first started it, I put my schedule on there, and then I would put who won the race. So you can go back to 1997 or 1998 and see every race I've been to and who won that race. So, and then before my website, I kind of kept like an estimate. I used to say my tickets, so I kept track for several years that way. And then before that, I kind of estimated. But the last 27 years or so, it's all on my website, every track I went to and who won. So I'm kind of glad I did that, because it's cool to go back and look at it, because there's a lot of stuff I don't even remember. I was like, I went there? Wow, I don't even remember. Same with the pictures. I'll be looking at pictures from 20 years ago, and I'm like, that guy drove that car. And you see so many cars and races, it all ends up being a blur after a while. So it's nice to have the pictures and everything, that you kept track of it, so you can actually go back and see what the hell happened, especially when you get old and forgetful.
I wouldn't know anything about that yet.
Something to look forward to.
So, you talked about you got the offer through RPM, but how did Sprint Car News become a thing?
I know, it just kind of like my camera when the internet came along. I think 96, I got online, and I was like, I just thought the internet was really cool and they had websites. And I'm like, well, I'm going to build a website, So I get on there. And one thing that did pay off, when I was in school, I took 2 years of typing. I never thought it would pay off for anything. And then in the long run, it did, doing writing and website and stuff. But anyway, so I get on there and I type this. I probably spent an hour or two typing up this website of just a bunch of random stuff. But I typed it like I was typing a paper, some like spacing and centering and all that stuff. I hit save. It comes up and it's just this big glob of words. I had no idea what HTML was. So luckily I had a couple buddies that kind of helped me along and taught me the basics. And then I messed around with it for a couple months. And then once I kind of had an idea what I was doing, I was like, well, shit, I go to the races all the time. I might as well just make this a racing website, and see what happens. And so I started it and started out putting results on stuff. And back then, without social media, I got a ton of traffic just because people kept coming to my website to see who won the races. Because I don't remember how, but I seem to have the results before everybody else back then, just word of mouth or people calling me. I don't know what it was, but it did pretty good. And then hoseheads.com, he was probably the original, and I think he started like a year before me. So he helped me out. I would send him like results from Western PA and stuff, and then he would kind of promote me, and he kind of helped it grow. But I just started it for fun, and it just kind of grew and got super popular back in the day. Now with social media, people really don't go to websites much, so I just have stuff, like I said, like my results and stuff, and I have all my pictures on there. So if anybody wants pictures, they can go there. And I do update it weekly with like victory lane shots and stuff like that. But it's kind of like most websites are kind of obsolete when it comes to results and stuff like that with social media, but it's still alive and kicking.
And then you've adapted very well to the social media part, like switching over to social media, I feel, because I always see like those older photos and even some new, and you still post some of your newer photos on your Twitter and your Facebook, or of the sprintcarnews.com Facebook and Twitter.
Oh yeah, I'm super active on Twitter. Not as active on Facebook, but I try. But Twitter, I run Hoseheads Twitter. I do fast for them, and so I'm always on Twitter. Retweeting this or retweeting that, and I like to post pictures. The old pictures, they're super popular. People, they love seeing the old stuff. So that's one of my favorites. All winter I'll be posting old pictures. But the old pictures get more traffic than the new pictures 9 times out of 10, it seems like. But yeah, I try to post a handful of pictures every week, if not daily, just depending on how busy I'm. But I'm always trying to get some photos up there and off the wall stuff and stuff people haven't seen in a long time or haven't seen at all. So I'm always on there trying to do something on Twitter and Facebook when I try to keep Facebook going too, but definitely Twitter.
I really enjoyed the Ed Lynch Jr. thread that you started with the like all the different paint schemes that he drove throughout the years, and a lot of them I just remember him driving the iconic look that he always had, and then to see all the different ones that he did drive in the past, it was really cool. And then you sent me some of the different cars Bob Felmy drove throughout his career uh on Messenger, and some of them it's like I think there was one where he wasn't driving the number 6, and it was like, whoa, that's really weird. And it's just really cool to see a lot of those old photos, especially of guys that are local legends around here.
Yeah, some of them guys have been racing a long time. It's crazy to see how many different paint schemes they've had over the years, and even kind of on the same thought process, the racetracks like Port Royal is like, it's like state of the art place now. But then this guy was posting pictures of it from 1984 and you wouldn't even recognize it. But it's so cool to go back and see how much the track's changed in the last 30 years. It's just like completely different place. But sometimes you miss the new place is nice, but sometimes you miss those old places that had character and wasn't very safe, and the cars were 3 feet from your face going 150 mile an hour. I mean, I always the way the seats are down there, you're really on top of the cars with hardly any catch fence. And I would say, when I'd go down once in a while, and I'd say, this is a hell of a place to watch a race, but I couldn't sit here every week because you're literally in fear of your life. The cars were so fast and you were so close, and there's really nothing between you. So those days are gone, but it's cool to see the pictures of it and be reminded of it.
Yeah, well, I've heard through the grapevine, as long as you wear a reflective vest, you won't get hit by a car. So
Yeah, that's what they say. Sometimes they make you look fat, though. So that's about like that.
yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm a relatively skinny guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're one of the people that said that it makes me look fat, Tim, so when you wore yours. So I don't know.
I look fat with or without one.
Actually, last night I got a comment that it gets the women going, so I think I'm gonna wear it from now
Oh,
on.
I'm gonna have to ask who said that because I wasn't near you when you heard that.
It was me. I said it. Oh man.
So I don't even know what to go from there. Uh, I guess there's a couple questions I've been thinking about. I've been wanting to ask for a while, and I've been waiting for it to get you on to ask them. The first one, the first one is going to be, what's your top 5 sprint car drivers of all time?
um, some like half the people agree with me and half won't on my number one, but I just, I mean, I guess if you're saying just sprint cars, it's tough to go against Steve Kinser because of what he's done. But man, Kyle Larson overall, there's been nothing like him ever. I mean, and it, it could be either one. Them two, you could flip flop either way. I mean, like if Larson keeps doing what he's doing, he'd go to number one. But and then you look at the eras too. Like everybody's got the same of everything now. Back when Kinser raced, they could do stuff. There was no rules. They could outsmart everybody and do stuff like that. I don't know. You could flip flop it either way. Number one, those two. Number three, mm, hmm, probably. Uh, this is a tough question.
Well, I guess I should have said uh top 5 as in like you don't have to put them in order, but just like the 5 that you would say would be the best of all time. I
Like a
guess I
Mount
should have said.
Rushmore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like yeah.
that's what for me, probably Larson, Kinzer, Swindell, Wolfgang, and I guess Shots, but yeah, probably I guess Shots would have to go up there. I mean, he's done quite a bit.
I can hear the pain in your voice saying that.
Not that I'm not a Shots on, I don't know. He's just not flashy, and when you think of them other guys, usually it's like I don't know. I guess he deserves to be there. Nobody else has got numbers like him or stats like him, you know. So
Yeah. Can
yeah, I
you?
guess.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask if you could kind of talk about how good Doug Wolfgang was because I kind of know a little bit, but not as much as I wish I did. But I know a lot of the younger generation don't really know how great he was. So if you
He
could
was
kind of just talk about how good he was.
he was great. Now, what you want to do is on your list of things to do. He has a book and you need to read it. I actually have it. I'll let you borrow it. I've read it a couple times and I don't read books, but it's one of them books you pick it up and you've like read it in 2 or 3 days because you can't put it down. But he had some of the most insane seasons where he just won. Like he had a couple seasons, I believe, where he won over 50 races, and those were like all outlaw, all star, Knoxville Nationals, Eldora big races. And the one year in the Weicker car that year, he won 50 or more. They went on a string where I think they won like 14 or 17 races in a row that included like the Kings Royal, Knoxville. I mean, just crazy stuff. But in the book, he talks about he used because he drove for Weicker for a while there, and he lived out in uh, South Dakota or wherever, and he'd drive out on the weekends. So when he got to the PA border in the middle of the summer, he'd roll the windows up and turn the heater on full blast, and the car would be like 150 degrees inside, and he'd drive like the last 4 hours like that to help condition himself when he was driving in the car, you know, for the sprint car. But he had that accident down in Florida where he caught on fire, and he was never the same. He did come back and won a couple races, but he was never the same. I just learned recently that they were at that point because he was coming back, they were going to plan on running with the Outlaws again, but then he got hurt again, and then that was the end of it. But I didn't realize he was going to try to run with the Outlaws again. But the way he described it, when he was racing, he'd be in the car and, you know, they're going 100, 150, whatever. And he goes, for him, it was like slow motion. Everything, it's kind of like when a baseball player is hitting really good. They say the ball looks like the size of a basketball, you know, they can't miss it and it's going slow. He kind of described that's how it was for him in a sprint car. And I'm guessing that's probably how it is for guys like Larson and Kinzer, the guys that, you know, the elite. Everything just was in slow motion for him while he was racing. But he said after that wreck, he was a normal human being, and it was never like that again. And of course, he was never real good again either. But I always thought that was really interesting. But he was definitely one of the best to ever to wheel for sure. He was fun to watch.
So my next question is pretty much the same question, just specifically for Western Pennsylvania. What are your 5 Mount? I know Mount Rushmore is only 4, but I'm saying 5. 5 best drivers of all time, and from Western, if I can talk, from Western Pennsylvania.
All right, I'm gonna do this 5 because there was guys like Ralph Quarterson and stuff who I hear about that were awesome, and like Lou Blaney, the sprint car. But I didn't see them race, so I'm just gonna do the 5 that I've actually seen race. So number 1 would probably be Ed Lynch Jr. I mean, he traveled more than anybody that I can remember in years, and he beat the Outlaws at Lernerville. Nobody else has done that local. Won at Eldora. You know, he should have won at Williams Grove, but he stood on his Johnson coming at a 4 with a lap to go. And still that one still hurts, I'm sure, for him. But got to be Ed Lynch there, and then 4 more. Let's see, probably Rod George. He had quite a few good seasons, and he actually spent a few seasons out in Central PA. Won a few races out there. Probably I don't know if you consider Tim Schaefer a Western PA guy. I mean, he raced here for a handful of years, but then he kind of went out on the road and spent most of his career on the road. So I don't know if you consider he'd definitely be one of, but he didn't really race local that much at that. But family probably put him in there. He's won a lot of races over the years. He got an all-star win. And trying to think who else. Flick's pretty good lately, but I'm trying to think if I'm overlooking someone from around here that like 2 hours from now, I'm like, oh shit, forgot him. But Flick's been pretty dominant the last few years, and he does have a couple wins at Port Royal, which again, not many guys in Western PA have won outside of Western PA. When you do that, it's pretty impressive. Mike Lutz was
Mike
pretty.
Lutz.
He won. For a while he won an all-star race in Weikert's car out of Fremont, and that was with the worst equipment Weichert probably ever had. And then he drove a lot of different cars, and he pretty much won in every single car he ever got in. We used to have a saying: you put Mike Lutz in a dump truck and he'd win, because he pretty much won in everything. And anyway, he ran ESS for a year up in Canada and New York, and he won that championship, on mostly tracks he never saw, but he ran there 1 year and won that. So in his prime, Mike Lutz he was a really good driver. He was good, but those are probably the main ones I can think of. I'm probably forgetting someone or a couple, but like I said, you get old and forget what sucks. But
so how maybe interesting's not the right word, but I'll go with it. How interesting is it seeing these guys that you grew up watching see their kids start racing now and continuing in that footstep?
yeah, it's pretty cool, and it definitely makes you feel old, And then and that's the thing too, is a lot of these guys, I took pictures of them, now they're kids racing, and now what's really making feel is like a lot of the kids are like, oh, I just turned 30 and stuff. Like, Jesus, I remember a lot of these guys getting in the sprint car when they're 16, 17 years old, and now they're all getting old, and then you see their kids, and now they're starting like, oh, they're getting in go-karts and stuff. So geez, if I happen to live another 10 years, I'll probably be taking pictures of the grandkids of guys that I've shot, and then someone might have to roll me out there in a wheelchair. I don't know, but yeah, it's crazy how, I don't know, time flies and just one generation to the next. But it is cool to go back, and I do find a lot of Victory Lane pictures. Like I just found one the other day of Chris Shuttleworth that he'd won down at his daughter Lacey. I don't know if she ran rush sprints, and then she ran 305s. And I'm going through pictures from McKean County from the Patriot race, and he's in Victory Lane, and there she is. She's probably 5 years old, in the picture, and now she's racing. So you see a lot of the kids like Cy, lots of Victory Lane shots of Ed Lynch Jr. and their Cy, 5 years old, 4 years old, whatever he was, and have them pictures in Victory Lane. So it's funny to see those pictures. You can go back, like, see the guys now and see them when they're 5 years old in Victory Lane. It's cool, and it makes you feel old. So it's catch-22. But
so continuing with the not type of trend of the past and the present, how would you compare it, like the competition nowadays in Western PA compared to like years past?
In the late 80s or the late 70s, all through the 80s, competition was pretty tough around here because the Western PA tracks purses were closer to like the Ohio and Central PA, so the competition was better. But then it seemed like through the 90s, like Williams Grove and all the Central PA tracks started bumping up their purses and the competition getting tougher, while Western PA tracks just stagnated. And I felt like the mid 90s was probably worse. Like there was nights I'd go down to Lernerville and there'd be 14 cars, and I'm like, and it was just, but then I feel like in the last 5-10 years, the tracks, most of them have upped their purses, and like Western PA Speedway come back with a lot of different stuff like that has helped. But I feel like right now it's as competitive it's ever been. I mean, we got, you got 12, 15 guys that can win, any night. So I feel like right now it's really good. I feel like at least the car counts are pretty good. And it seems like back then you'd have tracks, like you'd have 2 tracks running on Saturday splitting the cars. There's not enough cars to do that much anymore around here. But on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, if you get a good field, half the field can win. And so you don't go in there like when there was 14 cars at Lernerville. I get on there and I was like, oh, Ed Lynch Jr.'s here. He's gonna probably lap the field. But nowadays, I feel it's as competitive it's ever been in the car counts. Every year, every 10 years, they always say racing's too expensive. It's going to be gone in 5-10 years. Nobody can afford it. But here we are, like last night at Silver Dollar, they had 50 sprint cars. Tonight and tomorrow, they'll have like 60. I mean, and like, there's still tons of cars and still, I think the only thing now is compared to back in the 80s, those 4 or 5 classes. Now we've got like 15 classes. You've got 4 divisions of modifieds and limited this and crate that. So it spreads out the racers, amongst more divisions. So I think that hurts the car count a little bit overall. But as far as the 410s, I feel it's pretty dang healthy right now. In my opinion, looks like it's going to be good for a while. There's a lot of young guys racing, and as long as they don't run out of money or get divorced and their wife takes everything and keep racing, and it's looks like all systems go. As long as they don't make us go to electric sprint cars or something, that would be a bummer.
Yeah.
Don't make me want to quit. Now make me want to quit like following racing forever if we go to electric.
Yeah, I feel like NASCAR is going to do that. It sounds like it anyway, but I don't know. I don't follow
Yeah.
NASCAR too much anymore, but electric sprint cars just doesn't sound good to me. Nothing about that sounds good.
I think I'm going to Alaska with you if that happens.
That might
At
be the
least-
only place they still run,
Yeah.
non-electric sprint cars.
At least polar bears don't run on electric.
Yeah, the last sprint car race they had in Alaska, which was, I think, not this last weekend, but the weekend before, and they had 16 sprint cars there. So that's a pretty good field up in Alaska. I really wish I was up there, but yeah, their season's about done. I think next week or Labor Day weekend. I know that's coming. That's usually about when their season ends. So they'll be about done up there.
You've taken photos of sprint cars up there before, and actually, I looked up your list of tracks you've been to, and I might have miscounted, but it looks like you've been to 10 tracks in Alaska. Can you kind of talk about going up there and watching racing and watching sprint cars up there?
Yeah, it's a different world up there. I've been to every track in Alaska except the one in Fairbanks, just because it's like a 2-lane road and it's about 7 hours north, and I just could never get that motivated to go up there. But out of those 10, a few of them have closed down, unfortunately, and then other ones opened up, but because that's over the course of 20 years. But yeah, they have 3 tracks in Alaska that run sprint cars. They used to have 410s and 360s, and about 10 years ago or so, they went to all 360s, which was a smart move because you don't need 2 classes up there with all the more cars they have. But they have 3 tracks that run sprint cars, and that one in Fairbanks. The next one is about 6 or 7 hours south, which is called Thunder Valley Speedway, which we used to be Capital Speedway, and then a guy bought it in the races, and he's done a ton of improvements and really make it into a pretty cool place. And then the next one that runs is down in Kenai, which is like about 5 more hours south. So you got 3 tracks running sprint cars on a Saturday, but they're spread out by, hours and hours. So each track on a regular night, they'll get maybe between 5 to 9 sprint cars on a regular night, depending. So each track has one special, which that was the one they had there, what they had, the 16 cars. So then them guys will travel like from Kenai up to Fairbanks, or Fairbanks down to Kenai, or to Thunder Valley, which is actually in Houston, Alaska, which is about an hour and a half north of Anchorage. But anyway, so each track has a big race, and they'll get try to get 15, 18 cars for that big race they have, which is cool. Those are the races I try to go to, so you can, get more bang for your buck. But it's pretty fun up there. They do have some races that'll pay some money, but for the most part, whatever money they take in at the end of the night, they just kind of split it up evenly, and that way everybody has enough money to keep going, can afford to keep racing. And when I was down at Kenai, they have what's called a flip jar, the concession stand there. So people can put their change in there, tips, whatever, and they fill that tip jar up. or flip jar, not tip jar. And if a car flips, they give that guy the jar full of money. Because I was actually there in a stock car. He literally flipped across the finish line, won the race, and he got the flip jar. So it's different up there. It's real laid back. So you don't got people bitching about purses or this or that, you know, but it's definitely fun up there for sure.
Are there any other states that you've seen a sprint car race at that are not really known for sprint cars?
Nah, Alaska's it. Luckily, with my dad living up there, I get to go. I always visit him during the races, so I can catch some races. I did when I drove down from Alaska one time. I did plan to go to Montana for an ASCS race or Sooner region or whatever region they had. They got all those different regions, but of course it got canceled due to weather. So Montana is not on my list of states that I've seen races at, unfortunately. But
So, you've been to Alaska. Have you ever been to Australia?
no, it's on my bucket list. I would like to, but I know it's a long ass flight. I don't know if I've gone to some races in Canada because I had to get a passport when I drove down from Alaska. So I was like, well, I might as well use this passport, and went to Oswego and saw the World of Outlaws up there. Tony Stewart won that race, and went to Ransomville a handful of times. And then my passport expired. So I have to go get a new passport to go to Australia. So I don't know if I'll make it there. I'd like to make it there for sure. The races you watch, some of those tracks they got really look cool, but
Hey, well,
maybe someday.
we know a guy now from Tri-City who's an Aussie, so he might be able to help you out.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive he could get you a reflective vest and reflective pants.
I got enough of that.
I guess, well, sticking with Australia, what's one of the best Australian drivers that you've seen come over to the US and race?
Gary Rush was really good, like in the 90s. He was kind of considered their Steve Kinser. Gary Brazier, he came over. He ran Central PA for a little while, ran some outlaw stuff. He was pretty good. He had a real bad temper. He gotten some scuffles here and there. And I'm pretty sure at one point his dad kicked him out of his car and put Danny Smith in the car for a little while. But I think he might still be driving. I think his kid is, but he was good. He just had a temper and whatnot. And then now, as far as Australians, James McFadden seems to be one of the best ever. And of course, you have Kerry Madsen. Brooke Tatnall was pretty good for a little while. But I remember I saw when I was up at Oswego for that outlaw race, that was the first time I ever saw James McFadden. And that was before he had the beard. And he was driving the J&M 55, I remember. That's the car that gave Tim Schaefer his break, the car to Central PA. But yeah, McFadden's gotten really good. But by the sounds of it, he's only going to run a few more years, and then he just wants to retire and, hang out with his family, which I guess ain't a bad idea. Some guys are, they race till they can't race no more, but then other guys, race for a while. Like some of them talk about, like I heard Gravel did that special on dirt, and he's like, I'll race till I'm about 40, and then sounds like he wants to retire at 40. Teach his own, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like Brad Sweet wants to retire pretty young as well, with him wanting to start high limit.
Yep, he's another one.
I guess they don't want to be like Sammy Swindell, be like 70 years old and still trying to go out there. Well, I guess at Knoxville, he was just pretty much testing a sprint car during a race, but still that's still driving that, like, I think he won a race this year and he's like 68 years old, so it's pretty nuts.
I think he's won a couple. If he didn't win this year, I know he won a couple last year at 360. That another one of those them ASCS regions, like down by Tennessee, or so. I think that one track. I think that's where he won at. But yeah, I think he's just going to keep racing, and that's like that guy out in Central PA, Jim Kennedy, Cowboy Jim Kennedy. He's 90 or 91. He just had his birthday, and he's still racing a 305 out there because I don't know if you saw Jeremy Cornbaugh's wrecked car from last weekend. That's, I guess, Kennedy spun out in front of him, and then he hit him and busted his car up. But he's 91 and out there racing still, which I actually saw him win a couple races probably 20 years ago. I saw him win a 305 race at Lincoln and a 410 race at Clinton County. And when he wins, he'll go down in victory lane and yodel. But I don't know if he should still be in it at 91, but he is. Jeremy Cornbaugh definitely is not a fan. I know that much.
I guess if I was driving a sprint car at 91 and I managed to die in the car, it would at least be a good way to go.
Yeah, that's we kind of say he probably just gonna race till he dies, I guess. I don't know. He usually anymore he just comes alone. It's just him, someone will help push him up for, engine starts and for the races and stuff, but it's just him by himself in his sprint car, I guess Kig only raced like a half a dozen times last year, but he's been out a couple times this year too, but he's still doing it. He's been doing it forever. There's pictures of him from, racing at Port in the 60s, but he's still going.
Incredible.
What are some of the drivers that you wish you would have been able to watch race? With going off of someone being 91 and still racing.
I would like to see Jan Opperman drive. He's, they talk about how good he was. And then even when I was growing up, my favorites when I was a kid was Rick Ferkel and Buddy Cochran. And I mean, I got to see them race when I was a kid, but Buddy was probably past his prime. He was running modified Zen sprints at the time, and he'd still win a couple modified races a year, but he wasn't winning in the sprints much. And he was still competitive top five. And then it got less and less because he raced till he was probably, I'm not sure, he was pretty old when he finally retired. But Rick Ferkel, I would have liked to gone back and seen them guys when they were 20 years younger in their prime. Because like Buddy, he won at Williams Grove, and he was like I think the one night he finished, he won at Hagerstown or something, and the next night he's out at Knoxville finishing second. He was all over the place, racing all over and competitive everywhere. And I'd love to. I always say I wish I had a time machine because I'd love to go back and watch some of them guys, and then just to see some of those guys that ran them sprint cars with the skinny tires and no roll cage and no power steering. I mean, you look now and half the guys running sprint cars are young kids that weigh 120 pounds. Back then, you had to be a grizzled old man pretty much to even drive one of them tanks. I mean, them things were insane, but to be able to go back and see them in person, I mean, that'd be wild, especially if I could take my camera to like, say the 50s, take pictures. That'd really be cool. But I'd love to go back in time and again, go to see some of the tracks, like go to Tri-City when it was still a quarter mile and stuff like that would be awesome. They'll probably invent that someday, maybe. IA and all that stuff's coming, or AI. I mean, so who knows?
Oh man.
What are some tracks that you haven't been to that you want to get to?
Well, I want to get to Blanket Hill. I'm going to hopefully get there in October and see the rush sprints. I'd love to go to all them tracks out in California, like Chico and stuff. I've never been out to California, but every track it seems like out there's a bull ring with a big ass cushion, and just they're all. Or Husitz would be cool to go to. I watch them most Sundays, and it's going to be on a New World of Outlaws game, so I haven't raced a Husitz since back in the dirt track and racing 2 days when it was on that game. So I get to run Husitz on the video game at least. But I'd like to get to that track in Alaska that's up in Fairbanks too. Then I've been to all the tracks in Alaska, but who knows? That's like I said, I probably never get motivated to do it, but I wouldn't mind going maybe someday. But I think I've been to all the other cool tracks. But definitely, go out in California and do like the high limit swing or an outlaw swing, hit some of those tracks would definitely be cool.
You mentioned the outlaw game. Um, it sounds like you're planning on getting it. How excited are you about? Well, I guess it came out a couple years ago again, but like, how excited are you about this new version of the game?
Yeah, the rat bag one I loved, and I played it for 20 years until they actually had an Xbox one that came out like 10 years ago, and it was garbage, so I didn't even bother with it. And I think they had like a Road to Knoxville game in it and it was garbage. But the new one that came out, 2 years ago, the iRacing Monster Game ones, I loved it. I knew there was some stuff you could complain about it if you want, but it was still the best thing that had come out in 20 years, and I thought it was really cool. And it had like Mattis and Spit Halo and Flick on there, which was cool, and a ton of really cool tracks. Because the 2002 one, you can only run like 16 cars in the feature, which kind of sucked. But this one, you got a C main, a B main, and you got 24 cars and weight like probably triple the track. So the good outweighed the bad, in my opinion. So now I already pre-ordered the new one the day you could pre-order it, the gold edition. So I get Husitz and you get Oswego, I think, and you get Millbridge. And so just imagine 410 sprint cars at Millbridge. I mean, that sounds cool to me. And there's another track I already know about. Kevin Harvick has a racetrack, I guess, and it's got a regular racetrack and then it's got like a micro track in the infield. So we're definitely going to run a 410 down there too for fun. But I already see people bitching about the new one. Oh, it's the same game. It's the same game. Well, this one, the track dries out. It's got a wing slider, so you can move the wing back. It's got all new paint jobs, and plus it's got micro sprints and what the hell else? They got wingless 410 sprints. So you got two new classes. It got 11 classes total, and then with the pre-order, you get the 2 extra tracks. Plus, you get to, I guess you can run Donnie Schatz in a late model, and is it Ricky Thornton Jr. in a sprint car, and then you get a bunch of all updated cars. Plus, you get alternative paint jobs, which I don't know. I don't know if that's Knoxville schemes or what it is, and a new paint booth. So hopefully, the new paint booth you can do more with that. So I mean, all that's enough from what's $65, in the grand scheme of it all. But I'm looking forward to it because I asked AJ the other night, I was like, "Are you going to be on the new one?" And he said yes. So that's cool. So hopefully, him and Spit Halo and Mattis their cars are updated, and maybe some other locals. Because that's one thing, all the local cars they have on there, it's so random. It's just like a bunch of weird Central PA cars, a Midwest car, a handful
Yeah.
of cars. Like there was really no rhyme or reason to it. And then even when you ask them, they're like, I don't really know how I get on that game. As someone asked me this and that, and I'm on the game. So hopefully the newer one has even more locals and stuff. That'd be cool. Just wish they could put the high limit guys on there, but that ain't gonna happen. But now I'm really excited about it. It's a fun game, I think.
Yeah, I think in the trailer, I think I saw a Spit Allers car. It looked
Yeah,
like he was in it, like, but like it was hard to tell. It was so fast and stuff. But I'm like, there's not too many cars that look like his, so I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's who it was.
yeah, I think I saw the same thing. Yeah, because most people are like, "Oh, iRacing," actually, but with iRacing, that is expensive. It's more than $65. You got to buy all the tracks and everything. You got to buy a computer. But with this, I like it because I like to just pick it up and race whenever I feel like it. With iRacing, you got to get on at a certain time, race against people. And with these new games, they got like seasons, so I can run like a 60 race season. Take my time, run it whenever I want. It keeps points and all that stuff. I can do it over the course of a month or whenever I have time. So for me, I'm all about the PS4 game because I can just do it at my leisure. So I love the game. I think it's a ton of fun.
So I played the shit out of the old game. Unfortunately sold my Xbox. So I'm gonna have to buy a new Xbox to play the game. Um, but how aggravating do you find the game sometimes? Because I always have that the qualifying lap where I just throw down a heater and then I wreck, or the heat race where I get wrecked on the start, and I'll continue to restart the game over and over and over again. I just want to know if you have some of these same
No, I
problems.
don't do that. I usually, even in qualifying, I don't really push that back because I almost like when the 2002 one I was way better at because I had so much first. I would literally always skip qualifying so I could start at the back because with only 16 cars, it's always more fun to start at the back. This one's a little more challenging, if you turn up the difficulty or thing. So, but no, every once in a while, you get, but unless it's something like super blatant, like if I get taken out on the first lap by a jackass or something, I just kind of eat it and go on to the next race. But because I want to try to keep it as real as I can, but every once in a while, it's like, well, you know. But
I like to win, so I quit it. I like restart the race but usually it's like if something really stupid happens, but I
Yeah.
like racing the small tracks and like starting up front and just seeing if I can lap the whole field, like maxing out the amount of laps and just seeing if I can lap the whole field.
Yeah, I like the season thing because I like being able to run all those races and see where if I can beat shots and gravel in the points. Like I think on that one I only did like 3 full seasons, and I think I had like a second, and a third. I never did win the championship because you wreck a couple times and you're so far behind to make it up, and then jackasses don't want to wreck. So, but
The
I'll
AI
do.
won't let you wreck.
Yeah. But I do. That's the one thing where you get a wreck, or you're involved in a wreck and they give you your spot back. They need to fix that where you got to go to the tail and to fix the damage. Where like on the first one where you start flipping and your wing blows off and you're out there running with racing with no front wing and stuff. But baby steps, like I said, the good outweighs the bad on the game in my opinion. So the little stuff like that, I don't really let it bother me. I just enjoy it for what it is. Like I said, a lot of them, some badass tracks. A lot of those fictional tracks are really badass in my opinion. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
some of oh,
I'm
sorry,
a
Tim.
I'm a big track guy. I always liked I-84 on that game. It's just
yeah.
like
See, I like
200
the
miles an hour.
sailing. Yeah, I like the little ones. Or like a third mile. I love Kokomo on there. Kokomo is probably my favorite track in real life, and on there, get the car just right and just almost flat footed right around the top there. That's fun there for sure.
I like the fictional track. I like the short tracks as well, but I really like probably my favorite in the game is Elm. I think it's called Elm Creek. It's like a 1/5 mile or something. And I
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, I love that thing. Like, I've that's the one where I'm like max out the laps. I've done it in a late model and a sprint car, and just start up front and just see if I can lap the whole field, and almost do most of the time, but.
So speaking about Kokomo, I'll you've been how many times would you say?
The Kokomo?
Yeah.
Oh, probably at least 15, 20.
Okay. What is your like favorite Kokomo story that you have?
Hmm. We're there one time for the All Stars. It was a 2 day show, and it was so goddamn hot. It was like 100 and something, 104, and then the real feel was even worse. So at this time, I have my dog Peanut. Most people know who he is because he's been to a lot of races. When I used to shoot most of the All Star races, a couple of us did. So we went to most of the All Star races. So I would always bring Peanut with me when we traveled, and then I would just put him in the All Star T-shirt trailer while I was shooting, and then come get him at the end of the night. So that night it was so hot and everybody was dying, and finally the races were over, and I came back to the T-shirt trailer to get Peanut, and he was gone. And they go up to they had a control. Yeah, I think it's actually the trailer that High Limit has now, because when they bought the All Stars, I think they go, that's one of the few things that's still All Stars. But they had the control trailer, whatever it was, where they did the pill driver thing, and it was air conditioned. So Tony Stewart had come and got Peanut and took him up there. So I got there and there's Peanut, and he's hanging out with Tony Stewart. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I should have taken a picture of Tony holding Peanut. Peanut wouldn't have appreciated it, but I would have. I thought that was pretty cool that Tony come and got my dog and took him to the air condition to hang out since it was so hot. So that's probably the coolest story from Kokomo.
Have you ever been well this weekend there have Kokomo has a big USAC race, SmackDown. Have you ever
Yeah.
been to that?
Nah, I used to. There was a year or two there where they ran on Sundays, and I don't think Tri City was running then. And I just got there for regular shows on a Sunday because they'd start at 6, and they were usually done early. You get out of there by 9, and then I'd truck home. So I've been to a handful of regular shows out there, and then I try to go anytime they got wing cars because they don't normally run wing cars very often. But when they do, I try to get out there. And so I did that, and then I've driven there for a handful of rainouts too, which really sucks when you're sitting there and it's raining. But yeah, the wing racing there's awesome, but then the wingless is even insane because they're like 4 wide every lap. It's crazy. But I still, for some reason, I love taking pictures of wingless cars because it's usually pretty exciting. But for some reason, if I had to pick one, I'd pick wing cars over wingless.
Yeah, and that's I've never seen wingless 410 sprint cars, but I feel like that's probably I've like seen like the highlights or like the on flow or whatever, but never in person. But I'd still probably say that's probably how I'd feel and stuff. But I've heard some people say that like once they've seen like the wingless ones out, like they're just that's what they gravitate to.
Yeah, if you see them out in Indiana, it can be breathtaking. Those wingless cars out there, I mean, they drive insane. And so, say if you're like Kokomo, Gas City, Bloomington, those quarter miles with a cushion, and those wingless guys, man, they drive hard, and it's something to see for sure. Because out there, they like the wingless people. They're like, wings, we don't want to see that because to them it's boring because they're usually not four wide and pitched them into the turns and stuff. So it's either get wing people fighting with wingless people, but I like them both. But like I said, if I had to pick one, I'd have to go with winged.
So, who are some, I guess, who, how do I want to ask this? Who are some people that you consider legendary photographers that you've worked with over the years?
That's a good question.
Definitely Paul Arch. He's a legend. Jack Cromer out in Central PA. I've never worked with him. I've shot beside him at lots of races. I always see him and see his work, and he's actually in the Hall of Fame out in Knoxville. I don't know if Paul is yet or not, but he belongs there too. But Jack Cromer, he's just incredible. If you don't follow him on Twitter, definitely go give him a follow and just go back and look at some of his pictures. He posts a lot of racing pictures, but he does a lot of wildlife. I mean, it's stuff. It's just cream de la creme. It looks like shit that should be. I told him he needs to do a coffee table book because they're just insane. The pictures he takes of animals and ducks, and he's got like ducks pulling fish. It's like the best way I can describe it is it's like the animals pose for him. It'd take me months to get one shot, and seems like he gets it all the time, but he does incredible work. Jack Cromer, um, Jim Fisher out of Indiana, he actually, when I first started, he helped me out, and he had a website, so he shared some of my photos when I first started. Had no idea what I was doing. He actually kind of helped me get going and kind of taught me what the hell to do because I was pretty clueless when I first started. So, and me and him actually share our photo sites. So between the two of us, I think there's over he's been shooting since 87. So between the two of us, we have over, I think it's like 700,000 or something photos on the website because he spent the last few winters scanning everything up from his film stuff. So Jim Fisher, definitely me and him, he's still shooting today. We're still good buddies. And I see him usually at Fremont and Attica. And yeah, he just beat cancer, which was awesome. So he's good. He's going strong this year. I think he shot more this year than he has in a while, but he does he probably does 40, 50 races a year. He shoots Butler. He was a track photographer there for years and then shoots any winged. And when he does a lot of Kokomo and anything in Indiana, Michigan, Western Ohio. Who else is good around here? There's a lot of good guys out in Central PA too. Jason Walls, um, Steve Coulthard, I think you guys met him. He was up at Tri-City there a few weeks ago. You guys were both there, weren't you?
Yeah, the
Crazy guy.
yeah,
The guy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's
he's
a
been shooting.
crazy guy.
Yeah, he's a wild one. He's been shooting forever too. He goes all over. He loves the wingless stuff and yeah, he's been shooting since the 80s and he's another good one. Um yeah, Um, Jason Brown's good, but he don't go to many races anymore. He's just Lernerville. He said he might go to Mercer tomorrow. We'll see if he shows up. But
He did
He
mention
said
that
he,
last
yeah,
night.
he did say he was gonna go.
yeah, but you never. That's still only 50-50 with Jason. But yeah, those guys have been around doing it for a long time. They're awesome. So one thing you see a ton of photographers come and go. They'll be here for a year or two and then they're gone. You see that more than anything. But yeah, like I
Who?
said, Chrome and Paul Arch, you can put them two in the Hall of Fame for sure.
Yeah, I've talked to Paul like I don't know how many times now at like different races and stuff, and I'm just like always like um uh, like I'm speechless. Like honestly, like talking to him, and he just how much like history he knows about like racing and how long he's been doing it, and it's just amazing. Well, it's amazing to listen to you talk about like the history of like all this stuff you've experienced, but then it's like Paul, and Paul's just like so much more, and there's just so much that Paul has to say about like every single track and everything, and it's just kind of amazing to just sit there and listen to him talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I love some of the stories from back in the day. That's that Jack Cromer. He's been shooting forever. He actually, I think there's a story of it in open wheel. He got hit. I forget what track, like I think New Jersey or something. He almost got killed. He ended up in the hospital in critical condition. They did a story on him, and then he came back, and he's been shooting ever since. But yeah, he's them two. They've been when they post their old pictures, it's like cool stuff because they got all kinds of cool stuff from back in the day. That's like with Jim Fisher. It's cool because with us sharing that site, I can go back and look at like he's got pictures from the season opener at Williams Grove in 1987. There was like 2 feet of snow on the ground, and they plowed the track, and the infield's full of snow, and there's snow piles everywhere. And to go back and see cool pictures like that, I love it. Just to see all the crazy stuff. You won't see that today. But back then they're like we're racing no matter what, and there'd be a big crowd there, everybody in snowmobile suits and coats, and they said because I posted one of those pictures and they were talking about how they were there till like 2 in the morning. This was an afternoon show, grant you. They were till like 2 in the morning just pulling cars out of the parking lot because it just became nothing but a mud bog because everybody was stuck in the parking lot. But everybody was there to see the races, and it was like 40 degrees and 2 feet of snow.
Um, who's some of oh, what were you gonna you want to ask a question real quick,
I
Tim?
said that's wild.
Oh, oh, sorry.
No,
I
you're
didn't.
good.
I just heard you start saying something, so I
No,
just want to
all
make
good.
sure. Um, so going off of like Tim's question, just in the other direction, like who's some like younger photographers, excluding Tim, that are showing some great promise, uh, to just
Um,
great promise, I guess.
Hey, before you answer that, just know if you don't mention my name, I'm ending the podcast right here.
you're my favorite.
Rick wants to come on again. That's why he's saying that.
Oh, uh, Goodman. I mean, Brandon and Goody there. Them two they take cool stuff, and see if they stick with it. It's like I said, when you're married with children, sometimes you don't keep doing it for too long. So we'll see, but hopefully, they stick with it. Trying to think who else is young, and that's the thing. There's a lot of young people. Like if you got to Central PA, another thing different out there is like if you go to Port Royal, Lincoln, Williams Grove, all those tracks, all you gotta do is pay general admission, and you can go in the infield. And so out there, you'll get 20 photographers on a regular night, and then you'll have another 30 inside that just bought a general mission or taking pictures in the infield behind the fence. Just put up a ladder. Or something, you put up a ladder. Really, it's just a chain link fence, like waist high. But out there, you can't even keep track of how many people are shooting photos. I mean, they'll go out there, take pictures, post them on Facebook, and some of them are good, some of them are terrible. Everybody starts somewhere. But around here in Western PA, even Ohio, there's not much young blood. It seems like, you know. I'm
Have
probably
you
again, I'm probably forgetting something. Like I did think of on that Mount Rushmore, Brandon Spithaler. Like in the last couple of years, he's really turned it up. So I mean, he gets an honorable mention at least on that. So, but yeah, young photographers, there's just not many left, or not many around here anyway. And same with Ohio. It's just there's a few old guys out there that shoot every week, and so it seems a lot of younger people are getting more into video than taking pictures too. I see a lot of video people here and there, which I keep saying I'm going to try, but I feel like I start shooting video and then I miss a picture. So I just haven't never got into it yet. Maybe someday.
you
I
got to
tried
get a
last
dual camera setup?
Yeah. I got enough trouble around one.
I tried last night to see if my camera would take a picture while I was videoing, and it didn't do anything. So I guess I'm gonna have to rethink of because I'm like, oh, maybe I should. I'm like, I should try to do both. I mean, I suck at the well, I'm getting better at the video stuff, but not the best. But I'm like, man, it'd be nice to kind of be able to do both, especially like if I go to a race and Tim's not going to be able to go, just to kind of be able to still get some photos on our Facebook page and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you can do video and then freeze it and take pictures from that, but I don't know if it's going to be the exact same quality. But I mean, if it isn't now, it probably will be in the future the way it's going, but I don't know if it is right now, but maybe someday I'll screw with it. My buddy Jim Fisher that I was talking about, he's done he's done quite a bit of video. He'll shoot like the heat races, then he'll go somewhere and like video the feature, and he's done stuff like that. So I guess if I do decide to, I can always ask him, what the hell do I do?
Well, as long as tracks run hot laps, that's like I've heard you say that's like the best time to take pictures of cars is when they're running hot laps. So as long as they're doing that, I think he'll be able to work out okay.
Yeah, well, actually, time trials is the best. And you can sit outside and not get pelted with as much as you would if there's 10 cars out there, if there's only one or two. But I wish tracks would all run hot laps. It's sad when they don't. Ask AJ Flick, he'll tell you.
I believe it.
So, on the hot laps, how do you feel about pill draws? Do you
I
think?
I never had an issue. I know now I see everybody bitching about it, but I also like you go to a racetrack where they're time trialing mini stocks and everything. It gets just I if you want to do time trials, in my opinion, minus the sprint cars. If like I said, I don't have a problem with sprint cars going one or two at a time just because I'm a photographer. But fans probably don't want to see that. So if you're going to do time trials, put 5, 6 cars, whatever, out there. Let them run 3 or 4 laps, and that's their time if they want a time trial. Because putting bang bangers and mini stocks, pure stocks, pro stocks, all this crap out there, and then you're time trialing 4 divisions, like 2 cars at a time, and that's a half an hour, 45 minutes. I mean, I can't get behind all that, but I mean, I can kind of see guys the whole, oh, we need a time trial because they don't want their shit tore up. But then I feel like if you're at a racetrack and there's a car that's been there racing there for 20 years and he still goes 2 laps down every heat race, should automatically say, hey, you're not up to speed. You're not starting on the pole of the heat. That should just never be allowed either. So I don't know. It can go either way. But I don't know. I don't know if there's no, let's just put it this way. There's no fix that'll make everybody happy, because when it comes to racing, someone's going to bitch about something no matter what. That's just between racers and race fans. There ain't too many people that bitch more than us. I try not to, but just get on Facebook or Twitter anytime and just start reading. It's mostly people bitching, it seems like.
My favorite pastime lately has been getting on people's pages after races and just seeing the
Oh,
bitching in the
speaking of that,
comments.
we got to give Weber Valley Speedway a plug. If nobody's on there yet, they're on Facebook. If you're looking for entertainment, now that's some entertainment right there.
Oh man, that page was so funny when it like first gained traction and everyone was like, "What the hell is wrong with this track? Like, what are they
There's
doing?
still
There's
people.
no way they're making money."
There's still people who think it's real. You get because the comments are fun. The comments, or even some of the captions they put on the pictures, are funnier than the pictures themselves. I mean, there's some good ones on there. It never fails to entertain.
Oh,
Yeah, when I first saw the page, I'm like, I've never heard of this track before. And I'm like scrolling and I'm like, oh, this isn't a real track. But like I was just like, I've never heard of this one. I'm like, what state is it in? And I'm like scrolling and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely not a real track and stuff. And
yeah, first time I stumbled upon the track or upon the page, I thought it was real, but I thought I thought it was a response to like hate comments from a track, and they were just like screwing with the fans. And I was like, oh, I'll just let it go. And then I saw it again like 2 days later, and I was like, this can't be right.
Yeah, the first one I saw in there was that baby running across the track with a late model going back, going like 100 mile an hour. I knew it was AI, but that's so funny. I was like, and I started reading it, and I'm like, oh Lord. And probably a third of people thought it was real, flipping out and stuff. I'm like, this is great.
Oh,
Well,
they're great about posting content like right after something happens, like when
Oh
a
yeah,
late model car gets demolished by a sprint car or something. They always have a wonderful post after that, or
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I like.
Whoever does that's got a lot of time, because if you notice, it's that account's linked to that. I think it's like a Selena 51 truck stop, and they'll incorporate that into some of the posts. And then there's at least 3 or 4 drivers that have their pages. So there's at least like 5 or 6 pages are all run by the same person or people, but they'll tag each other and all the stuff, and you can tell it's all the same person. But that truck stop one's hilarious too. Like I caught it there a couple weeks ago, and they're like, they had a post up a bullet, and like their forklift driver was missing, and they spotted him up on the highway going like 10 mile an hour in the middle of traffic, and he had a gun. And I mean, it was just, it was out there. It was hilarious. But whoever does that, they got a lot of time on their hands. That's for sure. They're pretty creative. I couldn't come up with all that shit.
no. That's like they probably stumbled upon some magic mushrooms in the pit of Weber Valley, and now they're just on this trip to create crazy content.
It's something else. It's original. I give them that.
So going away from the fake racetrack, what are some like younger drivers, like they can be in the 410s or the 305s or even the rush sprints that you see like that you're like excited about seeing how their career progresses.
Blaze Myers gotten really good the last couple years, and then he got a 410, and he looked really good down at Lernerville the few times he was down there. And they kind of, I don't know whether he don't really know. I think his dad wants to race for him at this point. He kind of burned out, but he don't know what he's going to do next year. But I'm hoping he gets the itch, because I feel like he'd be really good in the 410. Because I was really impressed with how good. Even when he got in Randy Wyant's car last year, he looked good those few races. And then when he took his own car down Lernerville, he looked really good. So I'm hoping he sticks with it, and feel like he could definitely win some races. Leighton Wagner, he's gotten pretty fast this year. So I think if he keeps traveling around and stuff, he could win some more races. I think who else? Vivian Jones, she's quick in the 305. I'd like to see her in a 410.
She
I know she ran
yeah, she
races in
ran
the
it a
30s.
few times, right?
She really struggled there. I don't think she got enough seats. It felt like she was running that thing like the 305, because every time she come out, she had that thing matted to the floor. I don't think she has any fear, but because she just, I think, was needs some experience in a 410, a little more throttle control, because she'd be out there just matting that thing and spinning the tires. So I think if she got some experience, I think she could be pretty good. She seems really smooth. Seems like a lot of the rush drivers are like older guys that retired. So I'm thinking if there's any. I thought Jake Gamola was going to be a decent 410 guy, but he kind of sticking with the 305s. I think he's still got 410 stuff and still planning on it at some point, but I don't think he's run any 410 stuff this year.
Yeah, I don't think he has this year.
Yeah, so no, like I said, if main one that comes to mind is Blaze. Like I said, he's been one of the fastest cars with Rush, and then a few times he ran the 410 and he's looked really good. So if he could only get better running more laps, and like that first night down at Lernerville, he looked like he almost won his heat race, and then I think he ended up started on the pole feature, but I think he still ended up like almost top 5, if not. But he looked really good, on that place when it's slick and banked and that cushion, it's tricky, Even the best guys will slide off that cushion and crash here and there. And the 2-3 times he was down there, man, he looked really good. So see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to see him at Sharon. uh, with it being more slick and stuff because he has not I can't remember he doesn't have he has a dash 12 motor, so
Yeah.
I feel like Sharon would be real good for him with how slick it gets.
Yeah, he said he wanted to run there. He wanted to run there, and then because I told him like that a few years ago there when George Hobaugh he almost beat Blaney and won that All Star race. Finished second. That was with a dash 12, and then the race he won a feature there with a dash 12. I mean, when that place is slick, which it normally is, you get a dash 12, you're almost ahead of the game because you've got your motor detuned to just to fit that track perfectly. I mean, you gotta dash 12 be that's all we need there on a slick night. Now, yeah, I think, and he's won there in the rush car plenty of times. So hopefully he'll get. I guess. Well, they are rescheduled. They did reschedule the Blaney race, so maybe he'll make it over for that. Because I think other than that, all they got's the Outlaw race, and I don't see him going to that. I don't think I'd go to that with a dash 12, but
Yeah, I
Blaney
think
race, make the show, and you got $1,200. So
yeah, and I think 3 years ago when Spencer Basin won the Lou Blaney Memorial, uh Hoball, he was leading quite a bit of the race, and then he just clipped an infield tire and
yeah,
junked the car. I remember I was there, and I remember seeing that.
yeah. For about 2 or 3 years, man, George had that place figured out. He was about as fast as anybody with that dash 12, but then he got that bigger motor, and he's never. I think he did win one race with the all pro motor, but other than that, he's never been like super fast like he was. Like he was fast every night out there for like 3 years, and then now he don't barely race. Like I seen when in time trials in the Blaney, he's like one of the slowest cars. Like he just, I think I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last year. So because he said he was only going to run the Sharon shows this year, and I think they've only had what 4 races, and I think he ran Lernerville once. So I don't think I don't know if he's even run 6 times this year.
Well, Colton, are you ready to move into our final part of the podcast?
Yeah, I don't I guess we
The
could
not
call it
so
the A.
fire rapid fire questions.
Well, I was gonna say we could call it the A feature.
The A main, you mean?
Yeah. Well, they call it A feature too sometimes, but yeah, yeah, whatever. But yeah, you can go ahead first, Tim, and ask.
I'm gonna switch up my first question. So I heard you talking about sheets at Lernerville during the Clash. So not the Clash, the Silver Cup.
So
I got all my days screwed up. Uh what is your go-to sheets order?
um, well, I'll give away my secret. I tell my buddies this. This is my sheets. They call it the Rick Rare Classic. So when you get enough points on your sheets card, you can get a free foot long sub. So when I get enough points, I put it on my card and I get a free foot long. So what you do, you go in and you order a crispy chicken, like the chicken strip sub. You get the foot long, and get whatever kind of bread you want, and then you get double cheese. Then they have to have the toppers, so you get the cheese sticks, but you order them on the side, so you get 6 cheese sticks on the side. Then you hit double meat. Then you get 6 more giant chicken tenders. So by the time you get done, and the sub's like $26, so you get a $26 sub for free, and you've got like 3 meals. You take the extra chicken strips off, you got 6 chicken strips there. You got 2 6-inch subs, and you got to order a 6-piece chicken or cheese sticks. You can't beat it. So that's my go-to. I hope
Oh
you wrote
man.
that.
I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna clip that and put it on social media.
Now they can't. Don't give it away to everybody.
Oh, no, okay, maybe I won't because they gotta watch it, watch the
That's
whole
the
podcast and know it.
loyal listeners only. It's like an Easter egg. They got to get the whole way to the end of this mess to hear that.
You just share an Amazon gift card at the end of this episode.
Here's the
Oh,
stretch. Here's the code. First one to cash it in.
um,
Oh,
so I guess sticking with the food, uh, what's your favorite food and what's your favorite place to eat?
My favorite food is definitely Mexican. I could eat Mexican almost every day, if not every day. Give me nachos, burritos, anything like that. My favorite restaurant, unfortunately, is in Alaska. Garcia's, just the best Mexican restaurant anywhere. But there's this other place down here. It's in Newcastle. I can't remember the goddamn name of it, but whenever we go down to Penn's games or stuff down that way, we always stop there, and it's super, super cheap, super good, super friendly, awesome place. But if someone wants to know, tell them to shoot me a message and I'll find the name of it. But yeah, that's definitely Mexican. I can, Taco Bell. I'll hit Taco Bell after the races when they're open. That's another go-to. They're usually open late, but yeah, you can't go wrong with nachos. If you don't like nachos, you're probably not American. You might be Mexican. I don't know.
Oh man. All right. Another food question. Who is one person, it could be anyone, doesn't have to be in the racing community, that you would go to dinner with, and where would you go?
Uh, that's a tough one. I mean, that could be so many people, but the first one that pops in my head, I'm just going to go with Jeff Shepard. He used to race. I talked to him a few times, and he's just like one of the coolest dudes, some of the coolest stories. So, I'd probably go to Alaska, to Garcia's, take Jeff Shepard, take Jeff Shepard with me, and he could tell me stories the whole way up and the whole way back to Alaska. It'd be great. He's an entertaining fellow, and he was, killer sprint car driver, one of the best I ever saw.
Yeah, he's another guy that like if the injuries from getting in wrecks and stuff kind of made him stop early.
Yeah, it's a shame because he had a lot of races left to win. When you get bored, go on YouTube and pull up that if you haven't seen it already, the Bristol race where him and Sammy Swindell, I think it's 2001, and they're like Sammy's in the channel lock car and Jeff's in the working five, and they're like trading slide jobs like almost every lap. It's insane. And then the interviews, Jeff's interview afterward is great too. But that was a hell of a race. It's on YouTube. That's one worth checking out. It's cool as hell.
Yeah, I think that's probably like I think if the Bristol dirt races the like a couple years ago or whatever, if they were like that, I feel like they'd be putting dirt on Bristol every year. But sadly, they weren't. They didn't live up to the hype like that.
No, I went down and it wasn't the same as the first time. The banking was kind of different. I think they slowed it down a little bit and it didn't slick off like it did then either. So yeah, maybe in 20 years they'll try it again. Who knows? I see they're playing a baseball game there next year.
Yeah, that's
So
something, I guess.
it's something. Seems like a lot of, unless you sell the tickets for a ton of money. I just feel like the expense of moving all those seats and the field and the press boxes, and I feel like that's a huge undertaking for one game, or even if they play 3 games. I don't know what they're doing.
A few years ago, Virginia Tech and Tennessee played a football game there and stuff, so they must have done well
See,
enough
that
for them
would be
to do it
bad.
again.
I feel like because the seat, it's already in the right shape there. With the baseball field, they've got it all cocked to the side and got to put in all this seating, and they had press in the drawings I saw. They have like big press boxes, and I don't know. Sir, one of those companies is putting up the money, so however you want to spend your money, I guess.
So the next questions from me. One you kind of already answered. Kind of already mentioned like some tracks that you want to try to get to, which is like the bucket list tracks probably for you. Um, and then what are some of your favorite tracks as well?
Kokomo is definitely my favorite. What other? Even Thunder Valley up in Alaska. I mean, that's a real cool place. I mean, it's you know, it's like going back in time. But like I said last year, that guy he fixed it up a lot, and it's come a long way. But really, any track in Alaska is a lot of fun. They have a paved track, and then they have a drag strip that are over in Palmer, and they share the same pit area, the same. They run the circle track on Friday or Saturday, and then they do the drags on Sunday. Which the drag strip up there is really big. They'll get a couple hundred cars for that every week. but those two tracks are really nice, and the paved track's actually only about 6, 7 years old. It's really nice, but you've got that mountain in the background and snow on top of the mountain. It'd be 70 degrees at the track. You got snow up there. I mean, can't beat the backdrop, but for a weekend just to go up there and go to those Saturday and Sunday, that's can't beat that really. It's a good time. But yeah, Kokomo probably my favorite down here.
So I know you've taken a lot of photos over your lifetime, but if you can pick one photo that's the favorite one you've ever taken, what would it be?
I have a couple, but like
Well, I'll take a
honorable
couple.
mention. Honorable mention. I got that shot at Mansfield. I think it was the first race back when they put the dirt on it, and you couldn't see the sprint cars. And I got that shot of Jack Hodenshield, and they end up using it for T-shirts, and I still see those T-shirts today. So that was a really cool shot to have it on, a super popular shirt of Jack Hodenshield. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be the one from Alaska, from Union Field Raceway, which is closed now, but it's sprint cars with the snowy mountains in the background. Because I mean, I don't know how many times people have talked about that picture, and then they used to have a sprint car annual, and that was on the back cover of that the year I took it, which was really cool. And it's been a few other newspapers and stuff, and pops up here and there. But that one there, you can't take it again because the track's closed. So that if I had to pick one, it'd probably be that one from Alaska.
Is that the same picture that's on the back of some of your shirts?
No, the on the back of the shirt, I just went with an Alaska.
Okay. I didn't know if
Just
it
a
was
theme.
based on that picture or not.
Nah, I just wanted something Alaska, some mountains.
Okay.
But now the one I got, it's got the heat race all lined up, and they're coming down the straightaway, and in the background's all snow mountain. I'll post it or send it to you or something. But yeah,
Okay.
it's probably my favorite.
So last two questions are, do you have any, well, I guess where all can people find your photos and follow what you're doing? And if you I know you have t-shirts, like where can people find, like, get those t-shirts as well?
Sprintcarnews.com is my website. You can find all my pictures on there, and then Sprint Car News on Twitter, Sprint Car News on Facebook, and you can always just type in my name, Rick Rare, because I'm the only Rick Rare in the whole world, so it's going to be me, and it'll link you to my stuff too. And as far as shirts, you can message me through Facebook, through Twitter, through my website, anywhere there you can get a hold of me if anybody's looking for a shirt. I still got a handful left and some select sizes. So yeah, I I do gotta thank everybody out, because every year I do shirts and I usually sell quite a few. So I gotta thank everybody. That I'm always amazed how many shirts I sell. It's kind of humbling. So I definitely want to say thanks to everybody that buys shirts every year, because I do appreciate it.
Well, I'm gonna probably try to buy one here soon. So probably message you or after we're done talk to you, or message you on afterwards, and ask you if you have any in my size left.
Sounds good.
But and then the last thing, is there anybody you want to thank for help? Just thank anybody that you want to thank for helping you out.
Well, like I said, Jim Fisher, as far as taking pictures, he helped me out a lot in the beginning. So he was a big help. And say if I need anything now, he still answers anything I need. But I help I've got to thank all the tracks, the people that work the tracks. Like, there's too many to name, but there's a lot of good. There's some every once in a while you run into an asshole, but for the most part, a lot of good people work at these tracks, and they help you out. And I try to help them out with pictures or whatever. So I got to say thank you to all the people that work and promote these racetracks that make it possible for me to do what I love doing. So, you know, it helps when it's not when they make it easy, when they help make it easy to do my job. So I appreciate all that. And thanks to anybody that, likes my stuff or follows me on, social media. If you don't, give me a follow on Twitter or Facebook and enjoy the photos. But yeah, it's been a fun ride so far. So keep going for a few more years and see how it goes.
Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
Just want to say thanks to Rick Rare for coming on and talking with us on the podcast. If you ever get a chance to talk to him at a track or even away from the track, make sure you do. He's a wealth of knowledge and history of sprint car racing, especially Western PA, and that he's been so kind to us, starting to do the media stuff with Tim taking photos, and I'm trying to do videos. Um,
He's doing
hopefully
video. He's doing
well,
video.
I am doing
Confidence.
videos.
Confidence.
I am doing videos. I mean, go check out the YouTube page. There's some nice stuff. I got Spet Holler making a pretty good pass a couple weeks ago, or actually it might be a month ago now. But go check that out. Tim's posting pictures on our Facebook. I'm doing the posting videos on YouTube. Hopefully, I'll start making them into reels and stuff. Um, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're on Threads. I need to get more active on there. I need to make a TikTok, but I'll get there eventually. Um, we're on YouTube, uh, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Like, comment, subscribe, or rate 5 stars and follow. Do all that stuff. Share the heck out of us. I mean, the more we get out there, the more views we get from you guys helping us get out there, the more stuff we can do. And, we just want to keep finding ways to create more content for you guys. And we got some original ideas, or, well, maybe not completely original ideas, but we got some good ideas coming down the tank, or coming down the pipe. I mean, not tank, but we're going to do, we're, hey, running on 5 hours, less than 5 hours of sleep right now, but we're going to do a bunch of great stuff. Hopefully, come this off season, starting this off season, once we get a little bit more time, with the season starting to wind down. But definitely go check us out on everything, and go to your local dirt track, and hashtag no flags given.